What if Bigfoot is real, but the evidence has never been strong enough to prove it? No confirmed body, no accepted bones, no crystal clear trail cam photos that ended the debate. And yet every year, people keep reporting the same thing: a massive, upright figure, hair covered, long arms, moving through the woods where no person should be. Hunters see it, campers see it, families report it crossing the road. Researchers find footprints, strange structures, howls, wood knocks, and tracks that do not seem to match anything known. So tonight, we're not just asking, is Bigfoot real? We're asking the harder question: where's the evidence? And why hasn't it been enough? And before this episode's over, I'm going to tell you which pieces of Bigfoot evidence I think is the hardest to explain. Welcome back to the Deep Woods Paranormal Podcast, where we investigate ghosts, Bigfoot, UFOs, cryptids, hauntings, and everything strange hiding just beyond the edge of the firelight. I'm your host, Matt Harvey, founder of Deep Woods Paranormal, and tonight we're taking on one of the biggest arguments in the Bigfoot world. Where's the evidence? Where is it? If you believe in Bigfoot, you've probably heard these questions 100 times. If Sasquatch is real, why don't we have a body? Why don't we have any bones? Why don't we have any crystal clear video? Why hasn't science accepted it? And honestly, those are fair questions. But there's another side too. Why do people keep seeing the same thing? Why do hunters, hikers, campers, police officers, and everyday people keep reporting encounters? Why do footprints, howls, tree knocks, strange activity keep showing up in areas where sightings happen? Tonight we're going to look at both sides: the evidence, the problem with the evidence, the hoaxes, the science, and the mystery that refuses to die. This episode is not about forcing anyone to believe. It's about asking what may be real, what may be fake, and what we still can't explain. So grab your coffee, turn down the lights, and let's step into the woods. So we're going to do 11 segments. This is segment 1. Segment 1, evidence versus proof. So before we go any further, we need to separate two words that people often use like they mean the same thing: evidence and proof. So evidence points towards something. Proof closes the case. That difference matters. Bigfoot has evidence, but Bigfoot doesn't have accepted science proof. That is an honest place to start. Footprints are evidence. Eyewitness reports are evidence. Audio recordings are evidence. Trail cam photos are evidence. Hair samples can be evidence. But none of these things so far have been enough to make mainstream science say, yes, Bigfoot is a confirmed species. And that is where the entire debate lives. Believers say there's too many reports to ignore. Skeptics say none of the evidence is strong enough, and both sides have a point. Because a footprint can be faked, a howl can be misidentified, a witness can be mistaken, a blurry video can be staged. But at the same time, we're supposed to believe every single report is fake. But at the same time, are we supposed to believe that every single report is fake? Every hunter wrong? Every camper imagined it? Every camper imagined it? Every trackway is a hoax? Every strange sound is just an owl, a fox, a coyote? This is what makes the mystery so interesting. The evidence may not prove Bigfoot, but it also refuses to completely disappear. So as we go through this episode, ask yourself one question. What kind of evidence would finally be enough for you? Would it take a body, a bone, a DNA, a clear trail cam video, or would a credible witness be enough? Keep that question in mind as we go through this, because by the end, your answer might tell you exactly where you stand on the Bigfoot mystery. Segment 2, the footprints. The most famous Bigfoot evidence. When most people think about Bigfoot evidence, they think about footprints. Huge tracks in the mud, deep impressions in snow, long strides across creek beds, logging roads, river bottoms, and forest trails. Some of these prints are far bigger than a normal human foot. Some show unusual toe spread. Some show deep pressure marks. Some researchers claim certain prints show dithermal ridges, the same kind of skin patterns you would expect to see on real foot. Others point to what they call a mid-tarsal break, suggesting a foot structure different than a normal human foot. And if you're a believer, footprints are one of the strongest pieces of evidence. But if you're a skeptic, footprints are easy to track because, yes, people can fake them, especially nowadays. Some people can carve wooden feet. Someone can strap that fake footprint on a stomper and stomp around and make prints. Someone can press fake tracks into soft dirt. A single footprint by itself is not enough, but a trackway is different. A single fake print is easy. A long trail of prints moving naturally across rough terrain is much harder to fake. You have to match each stride and length. You have to match the pressure. You have to match the depth. You have to move through the terrain as if it looks natural. And in some cases, researchers claim the tracks are too deep, too far apart, too naturally placed to be easily explained. Now, does that prove Bigfoot? No, not really. But it does make footprints one of the most important categories of evidence because a footprint is not just a story. It's something actually left behind. Something physical. Something that says something stepped here. And that's why people keep casting tracks, photographing them and measuring them and arguing over them. But footprints are only the beginning. Because the next type of evidence is one that keeps the entire mystery alive. Eyewitnesses. So in segment 3, we're going to talk about eyewitnesses. The evidence people dismiss too quickly. Eyewitness reports are the heart of the Bigfoot mystery. Without witnesses, Bigfoot would probably just be an old legend. But the reports keep coming in from people who often have no reason to make it up. Hunters, hikers, campers, truck drivers, police officers, military veterans, farmers, families driving rural roads late at night, people who were not out looking for Bigfoot, people who did not believe in Bigfoot. That's me. People who had nothing to gain by telling their stories. And what makes these reports interesting is how similar they can be. Even my wife Amanda says this, and she's a non-believer. A large upright figure, dark and hairy, long arms, powerful shoulders, fast movement, sometimes a terrible smell, like skunk and wet dog mixed together. Sometimes glowing eye shine, sometimes complete silence before the encounter. A lot of witnesses say the same thing happened. I know what a bear looks like. I know what a person looks like. This was neither. Now, skeptics are right that eyewitness testimony can be unreliable. Most people misidentify animals. Dark changes perception. Fear attacks memory. Distance can fool their eyes. The mind can fill in gaps when something happens fast. But here's the part that keeps me from dismissing every eyewitness. Why do so many people describe similar things? Why do so many witnesses sound shaken when they talk about it? Why do so many people wait years before telling anyone? A hoaxer usually wants attention, but a lot of Bigfoot witnesses want the opposite. They want to stay quiet, and I can contest to this. They don't want to be laughed at for that many times. They don't want people thinking they're crazy for that a lot of times. They just want to understand what they saw. That doesn't prove they saw Bigfoot, but it does make me wonder. If any of you are listening or watching right now and you want to think about this, would you believe a witness if they were a hunter? Would you believe them if they were a police officer? Would you believe them if they have no interest in Bigfoot before their sighting? Or would you still need a physical proof? Or would you still need physical proof? That's where the debate gets personal. Because for a witness, the encounter may be all the proof they need. But God bless. Jesus Christ. But for everyone else, it's still a journey. So segment 4, audio evidence, howls, screams, and wood knocks. Some of the creepiest Bigfoot evidence is not something you see, it's something you hear. I can attest to that. Deep howls carrying through the woods, screams that do not sound human, whoops, whistles, growls, chatter, having your name called. Wood knocks echoing from one side of the forest to the other. If you've ever been in the woods late at night and heard something that you could not identify, how fast would your mind start racing? The woods can feel completely different after dark. Each branch each branch snap sounds closer. Each rustle sounds bigger. Each sound makes you stop and listen. And in Bigfoot research, strange audio is one of the most talked about types of evidence. Some researchers believe Sasquatch uses vocalization to communicate over long distances. Some believe wood knocks are used as signals. Others believe whistles, whoops, and calls may be warnings or contact sounds. I do believe whoops are the females, and I believe that they're letting the dominant male know that there's danger, because we've experienced that. But audio evidence is tricky because the woods are full of strange sounds. Foxes can scream, coyotes can make eerie sounds, owls can make calls that do not sound like birds, bobcats can sound terrifying, cattle, elk, deer, and bears can all make noises people may not recognize. It's sometimes humans are the weirdest thing in the woods. And sometimes humans are the weirdest things in the woods. So a strange sound does not automatically equal Bigfoot. But some recordings are hard to explain, especially when they happen in areas where reported reports, tracks, or other activity have happened. Wood knocks are another major piece of this. Some researchers believe Sasquatch uses knocks to communicate, which I do believe. I believe that a lot. Because you'll hear one, you'll hear two, or you'll hear three. And I believe one is like, where are you? Two is I'm over here, and three might be danger or I'm coming your way or something like that. Some skeptics say it could be branches, hunters, people, or other natural causes. The truth is, a knock by itself is weak evidence, but it's a knock that gets answered, a knock that moves, a knock that happens after you enter an area with other strange activity. But it gets more interesting because Bigfoot evidence usually does not stand on one thing. It builds through patterns, a sound, a track, a sighting, a strange smell, feeling of being watched. One thing that can be dismissed. But when multiple things happen in the same area, it starts to feel different. And that brings us to one of the biggest problems of Bigfoot for Bigfoot believers. If Bigfoot is really out there, should we have one on camera by now? Segment 5, Trail Cameras. The biggest problem for Bigfoot believers. This may be one of the strongest arguments skeptics have. There are trail cameras everywhere. Hunters use them, landowners use them, wildlife researchers use them, Bigfoot researchers use them. People have trail cameras on private land, hunting leases, farms, ranches, forests, and game trails all over the country. So why don't we have a perfect, clear, undeniable Bigfoot trail camera photo? This is a real problem because trail cameras have captured. This is a real problem because trail cams have captured rare animals. They have captured mountain lions, bears, wolves, deer, coyote, bobcats, animals people did not even know were in certain areas. So if Bigfoot is walking around the woods, why is the evidence usually blurry, dark, distant, or questionable? So let me kind of talk about that real quick before we get into the rest of this. There are tons of clear trail cam photos out there. I have one. I have multiples, and I know a lot of the other Bigfoot researchers do. We don't put them out because people ridicule them and try and dismantle them and whatever else. I don't think it's like I was talking about before. I don't really believe that it's 100% proof of Bigfoot. I have video. I have pictures of them on my trail cams. I do believe that Bigfoot does hear them possibly and I believe they can also see the IR lights, although they are working on making IR lights now that are invisible somehow, because deer can see IR, and it makes me wonder if Bigfoots can also see them, and maybe they avoid them, unless you had trail cams like mass covering an area with trees everywhere. Like let's just use a football field for an example. Unless you had trees, I mean, unless you had cameras like all the way down the sides of the football field, and then you had basically and there's trees all in the middle of this football field, and you had trail cams like facing each and every way on that football field. Um, you're probably going to miss them. They're probably going to zigzag through that area. I know, for example, when I stayed at Joe's camp, I put up 15 trail cams. I had every single angle covered in the area around my tent. I mean, you could not walk by without getting caught on a trail cam. And one actually did. It just wasn't clear enough to say it was a Bigfoot, so I didn't even post it. Didn't even bother it. Um, it would have been pretty easy for a skeptic to basically disprove, and that's why I didn't post it. But it's they stayed away, and as soon as I took those trail cams down, they started coming into my area. They got more. I started hearing tree knocks again. I heard a scream. Well, it wasn't a scream. It was between a whoop and a scream. I don't know what it was. I can't even remake that noise. And then as soon as that would happen, as soon as I opened my tent, going out around 2 o'clock in the morning, it was like a warning. It wasn't a whoop. It was a weird sound. I can't even describe it. It sounded kind of like a whoop, but it wasn't a whoop. Anyways, then I got touched in the back. A hand literally reached in and touched my back, and my hands are big. I got big fat hands. This hand must have been, the fingertips must have been out another 3 or 4 inches. I mean, this hand was not small. I mean, I'm a big guy. I'm 6'2", almost 300 pounds, and literally it covered my whole back. Scared the living bejesus out of me. So, anyways, I was just glad nothing else happened. I think it was just being curious to see where I was. All right, so let's get back into this. So, believers have a few theories. Maybe Bigfoot is highly intelligent and avoids human scent. That's another one I didn't think of. Maybe it notices cameras, like I talked about. Maybe it avoids obvious game trails. That's another thing I just talked about. Maybe trail cams are placed where deer move, not where cautious unknown creatures would travel. And that's a little strange because I think that basically Bigfoot does follow. I think they do follow deer and other game like pigs and stuff like that. So maybe Bigfoots use creek beds, ridges, thick cover, and areas where humans really rarely go. I believe that. Maybe it's simple. Maybe it simply doesn't move the way normal wildlife does. Very good question. But skeptics say the simpler answer is we do not have clear footage because Bigfoot is not there. And honestly, that's a hard argument to beat. The lack of clear trail cam evidence is one of the biggest weaknesses in the Bigfoot case. If Bigfoot is a flesh and blood creature, eventually a camera should catch it clearly, which I disagree with. It's already happened. That does not mean every single sighting is fake, but it does mean researchers have a serious problem to solve. Still, even with all those cameras, people keep reporting encounters in places where cameras are not pointing. And sometimes the stories come from areas where nobody expects anything strange at all. So the camera problem does not end the mystery, but it does keep that question alive. Why is the evidence always almost good enough, but never final? And again, I touched about that. I think that they basically avoid areas where the cameras are. I think Bigfoots know their territory. They stay in it a lot. I know they know their hunting areas and they know stuff. They know stuff's changed. And like, I like the idea of the scent idea. If our humans sense somewhere, they can probably pick it up. I imagine their smelling, their hearing, their vision is way, way better than ours. Hence, that why they can walk around and see at night. Their night vision has not been ruined by lights, light noise like we have now. I mean, when you go into a room, you flip on the light so you can see. Early humans didn't have to do that. They could see all spectrums of light, just like a lot of animals can because they live out in the dark. Anyways, yeah, I think that my thinking on that is basically they just know where humans have been, and if they see something they don't recognize, they'll stay away from it. They may get a little curious. Like at Joe's camp, one walked right in front of it. You can just see like the head and the neck, very broad shoulders. This thing was up about 8 feet tall. So, anyways, segment 6: video evidencing and hoaxing problems. This is what kills a lot of the Bigfoot research, and it really hurts our field, especially when people that know, basically go out to research Bigfoot do this, and they hoax videos and stuff like that, and footprints and stuff. So it's Bigfoot videos are everywhere online, and that's part of the problem. Every year, someone posts a blurry figure walking through the woods and claims it's Bigfoot. Sometimes it's obviously fake. Sometimes it's a person in a suit. Sometimes it's a bear. Sometimes it's a shadow. Sometimes it's a stump, a dark patch of brush, or something unclear that nobody can honestly say what it is. The internet has made Bigfoot evidence so hard to trust. A fake video can get thousands of views. A hoax can spread before anyone investigates it. And serious researchers get hurt every time someone stages evidence for attention. Because once people see enough fake evidence, they start assuming everything is fake. And that's very true. And that's dangerous for honest witnesses. But here's the most important part: not every bad video means every witness is lying. Hoaxes damage the field, but they do not explain every report. The real investigation needs more than a strange figure on video. A real investigation needs more than a strange figure on video. It needs the original footage, the location, the witness statement, measurements, environmental comparisons, follow-up investigation, weather conditions, distance, scale, a timeline. Without those things, most Bigfoot witnesses remain interesting but unproven. That doesn't mean they're worthless. It just means they're not enough by themselves. And if you're watching this on YouTube or Rumble, I want to ask you, what do you think hurts Bigfoot research the most? The fake videos, the blurry footage, or people believe everything too quickly? Because for me, the hoaxes are one of the biggest reasons Bigfoot researchers struggle to be taken seriously. But the hoaxes are not the only problem. The biggest problem is still physical evidence. Hair. I've got tons of it. Hair samples here, hair samples here. This piece has actually a piece of skin on it. DNA, like a tooth sample. I don't know if you can clearly see that. Bones, which we kind of don't have. A body, which is really hard to get because Uncle Sam or Big Brother or whoever steps in, the military steps in and takes that from you. They don't want you to have that. All right, segment 7. Let's talk about hair, DNA, and the missing body. Now we get to the evidence that would really matter. Physical evidence. The hair, the body, the tissue, the scat, the bones, the teeth, the DNA, and a body, which is what I just talked about. I have several of those. I don't have any bones. I have hair sample. This is where the Bigfoot mystery runs into its biggest wall. If Bigfoot is a real flesh and blood creature, there should eventually be physical evidence that science can test and verify. And so far, no physical samples have widely been accepted as proof of Bigfoot. Hair samples often come back as unknown animals. DNA claims are usually controversial. Bones have not been confirmed. No body has been accepted. And this is the strongest argument that skeptics have. No bones, no bodies, no confirmed DNA, no Bigfoot. This is the argument. And if we're being honest, Bigfoot researchers have to face that. You can't just brush it off. If something is living, eventually it dies. If it dies, it should leave remains. Bones, hair, teeth, something. Which I'm laughing about because Here you go. Believers usually respond by saying forests are huge, remains disappear quickly, scavengers scatter bones, acidic soil breaks things down, and remote terrain can hide a lot. And some of that is true. The woods can't erase evidence fast. But even then, the missing body remains the biggest problem because physical proof would change everything. A verified DNA sample would matter. A confirmed bone would matter. A body would end the debate. And then Bigfoot remains unproven. Until then, Bigfoot remains unproven. Not necessarily impossible, but unproven. And that is the lines serious researchers have to walk. You can't believe witnesses are sincere. You can't believe some evidence is strange. You can't believe there's, and that's the serious line researchers have to walk. You can't believe witnesses are sincere. You can't believe some evidence is strange. You can't believe there may be something out there. But you also have to admit the case has not been disclosed. Segment 8, tree structures and strange signs in the woods. Some Bigfoot researchers look at more than just footprints and sounds. They look for patterns in the woods. That's me. Bent trees, broken branches, stick formations, arches, X shapes, teepee like structures, strange markers along trails, ridges, creek beds, and remote areas. Some believe these are signs left by Bigfoot. Some believe these are testimonial marks. Some believe they are travel signs. Some believe they are shelters, blinds, or communication marks. Others say they are caused by storms, wind, flooding water, falling trees, animals, hunters, or people. And that's where the context matters. A pile of sticks by itself is not strong evidence. The woods are messy. Branches fall, trees bend, storms twist things. Floodwaters move debris. People build forts. Hunters build blinds. Animals break branches. Nature can create things that look intentional. But if that structure is in an area with tracks, vocalizations, repeated sightings, strange smells, and the feeling of being watched, then it becomes a bigger part of the picture. This is how Bigfoot research usually works. One thing alone may not prove another, but multiple strange things in the same area, start to build a pattern. That doesn't mean every tree bend is a Bigfoot. It doesn't mean every stick structure is a design. But it does mean investigators should document it, photograph it, map it, and look for patterns over time. Because sometimes the story is not one piece of evidence. Sometimes it's in how the pieces connect. Segment 9, Modern Bigfoot Research Tools. Today's Bigfoot researchers have more tools than ever. Trail cameras, thermal cameras, night vision, audio recorders, drones, GPS mapping, casting kits, environmental sensors, field journals, report databases. These tools have changed how people investigate the woods. A researcher can now leave audio recordings running overnight. They can make maps, sightings by locations. They can use thermal cameras in total darkness. They can compare footprints. They can monitor movement. They can track repeated activity in one area over time. But tools do not automatically prove anything. A thermal imager can be a person. A thermal image can be a person. A drone can scare animals away. A trail cam can miss what walks behind it. An audio recorder can capture a sound you still cannot identify. Technology improves the investigation, but it does not replace common sense. The best Bigfoot research does not start with, I need this to be Bigfoot. It starts with, what happened here? And what can we rule out? That's the mindset that matters. Rule out known animals, rule out people, rule out weather, rule out hoaxes, rule out other natural causes. And if something still doesn't fit, then you keep investigating. That's where serious research lives. Not in believing everything, not in dismissing everything, but staying honest with the evidence. And that's what I'm all about. I want real physical evidence that I can say to a skeptic, here's all this evidence, here's what I have. Look at it and you try and describe what it is. Tell me how this is not a Bigfoot. Segment 10, the evidence. I think it's hardest to explain. At the beginning of this episode, I said I would tell you which type of Bigfoot evidence is the hardest to explain. For me, it's not just one footprint. It's not just one sound. It's not just one blurry video. It's the combination of eyewitness encounters and trackways. When a credible witness reports seeing something large and upright, and then tracks are found in the same area, that is harder to dismiss than either one by itself. A story alone can be a mistake. A footprint alone can be faked. But when the two line up, especially in remote areas, that is where I start paying attention. Because now you have a witness report and physical evidence in the same area. That's still not proof, but it's stronger than just one alone. And that's the whole key to this topic. Bigfoot evidence is really strong as a single piece. It becomes more interesting when multiple things happen together. A sighting, tracks, audio, movement in the woods, a strange smell, trail cam image, a repeated pattern over time. That does not prove Bigfoot, but it gives investigators a reason to keep looking. And maybe that's the most honest place to stand. Not Bigfoot is proven, not every witness is wrong, but there's still cases worth investigating. And that's what I believe. I've been lucky enough with Black Star Canyon and Joe's Camp and a couple other locations to find an area where there were family groups and they're frequenting that area. So you always had footprints, you had vocalizations, you had tree knocks, you had physical sightings of them, daytime, nighttime, standing in a clearing. There couldn't be anything else but a Bigfoot. And that's what I always tell people. I don't expect anyone to believe until they've had an encounter where they could say it couldn't be anything else but. And I agree with this. You have to have multiples. You can't just have a sighting. You can't just have a vocalization or a tree knock or a whoop or whatever. You really need a lot of stuff. I mean, if I'm going to go show a skeptic a location and say, come with me to investigate with me, I'm going to take you into a place where I know I've had a lot of Bigfoot encounters. I've had my own sightings probably. I found footprints. I found maybe hair samples. I've heard tree knocks. I've heard vocalizations, whether it's a whoop or whatever. Because when you start hearing females, then you're like, okay, the males are around somewhere else too. And you probably have juveniles, which gives you the best chance of possibly having an encounter. Last segment 11. So why hasn't Bigfoot been proven? So after all this, why hasn't Bigfoot been proven? Well, there's a few possibilities. One, Bigfoot is not real, and the evidence is a mix of hoaxes, misidentifications, folklore, and human investigation. Two, Bigfoot is real, but extremely rare, intelligent, and living in places where humans rarely get clear evidence. Or three, some reports are fake, some are mistakes, and small percentage may involve something truly unknown. Personally, I think the third option is why mysteries have lasted so long. Not every Bigfoot story is true. Not every footprint is real. Not every howl is unknown. Not every video deserves attention. But there are still cases that make you stop and wonder. And that's why people keep going back into the woods. Because the mystery is not built on one story. It's built on thousands of reports across decades from people who often had no reason to lie. Again, that does not prove Bigfoot, but it does keep the question alive. And maybe that's why Bigfoot has become more than just a creature. It's a symbol of the unknown. It reminds us that the world may not be as fully explored as we think. It reminds us that the woods can still hold secrets. And it reminds us that sometimes in the line between legend and reality is not as clear as we want it to be. So my final thoughts. So, where's the evidence? The honest answer is it exists. But it has not become proof. There are footprints, there are sightings, there are sounds, there are trail cam images, there are structures, there are stories from people who truly believe they saw something. I'm one of them. But there's no confirmed body, because of Big Brother probably. No accepted bones. No scientific proof that closes the case. Also, Bigfoots may bury their bodies. Or they may eat them, which is disgusting. But, it is what it is. It's the woods. And that's why Bigfoot remains one of the greatest mysteries in the world. Believers see the evidence as a piece of Believers see the evidence as a bigger piece of the puzzle. Skeptics see the same pieces as mistakes, hoaxes, or wishful thinking. So maybe one of these days we'll bring back the evidence that ends the debate. A body, a bone, a verified DNA sample, a clear video that cannot be explained away. Until then, the question remains, where's the evidence? And maybe the bigger question is, what would finally convince you? If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you like, subscribe, follow, and share it with someone who loves Bigfoot, Sasquatch, cryptids, or unexplained mysteries. Hey, and drop me a comment down below. Do you think Bigfoot's real? Is the evidence strong enough? Or something still hiding in the deep woods? Make sure you guys follow Deep Woods Paranormal on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Rumble, Speaker for more episodes on ghosts, Bigfoot, UFOs, cryptids, haunteds, and the unexplained. And I'm Matt Harvey. And remember, we're making the paranormal normal. And I will catch you guys on the next one.